Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on the Zoom Toolkit. We're continuing our journey with an introduction to the Zoom Toolkit, supporting organizations. For your information, we have two more webinars coming up in 2 weeks. One will be dedicated to lawyers and consultants advising on open source matters. And the other one is for IP officers. So, as you may know, our toolkit was born out of a licensing framework that we created in the course of this 2-year project called Zoom. The main driver behind the project was to match business models with corresponding licensing models, where companies and other knowledge generators leverage open source technologies, be that software, hardware, and data. Why was this project important, and why is this question important? Because there's often a mismatch between business model and a corresponding licensing model, especially in open source. So whether driven by their ethical beliefs or just a passion for open source or past experience or the love for community, people tend to jump on business models that are based on open source without actually having a clear strategy of how they're going to make money 5, 10 years down the way. So what happens is that at some point, you may realize that software you've released under GPL, for instance, V2 or Apache or Mozilla, whatever license that may be, whether permissive or copyleft, that this software is now being used by a large cloud computing service provider, such as Amazon, for instance, and it's being served as a service through their platform to customers that are actually paying, but they're not paying to you, the developer of that software. They're paying revenues to Amazon, for instance. And then some people, some organizations recognize this problem. So they say, we feel we're being robbed of IP. We contributed this to the community on an open source license. And all of a sudden, somebody's using that to make money. And that's where the fundamental problem lies, because these companies often don't realize that it is the very essence of the open source definition that prohibits any field of use restrictions, other sorts of discrimination between different users. So that means essentially that you cannot say you can only use this piece of software so long as you use it in a non-commercial environment, so long as you don't make money out of it, because that would be in contradiction with the very essence of the open source definition. So this prompted us to find ways to support companies and also supporting organizations that advise such companies on how to align in the best way possible their business model with a corresponding matching licensing model for the open source assets that they use. Obviously, nowadays, hardly any company uses just open source. Technologies usually, it's a mix of open and proprietary licensing regimes that also need to interplay with each other. So to analyze this, we created this licensing framework in Zoom, which helps us reason about these issues in 3 main categories. So we adopted this paradigm, SCP, structure, conduct, performance, to analyze companies based on, first of all, their structure, considering factors such as age, size or type of the company, business readiness, whether they have an experience with emerging technologies and so on. We then studied the conduct of the company, such as business conduct, how they interact with others in their domain, so the ecosystemic role, but also how they behave for open source more generally, and what specific components are being used in the products and services that they're developing. We also look at the legal conduct of the company, where we focus on IP strategy mostly. So this is how to balance these what the complementarities are between open and proprietary IP. Also, what the outbound and inbound licensing strategy of the company. So the way you consume open source software, for instance, but also the way you release your own product and whether there is compatibility, vertical compatibility, but also horizontal compatibility at the input and at the output. So that means if you have a license that is particularly restrictive in certain aspects, like for example some of the copyleft licenses, then you can't just release the end your output under just any license. You need to make sure that, as a rule of thumb, whatever you release at the end meets the stringent condition of the most stringent license that you use in your output, in your input sources. So we also try and provide tools to support these decisions to the best extent possible, of course. And then we also study the social conduct of companies. So what is the social impact of using open source technologies, and of course the ethical considerations that often go with them, but are not as such part of any open source license. In fact, having an ethical condition in an open source license would again be in contradiction with the open source definition, because it would be an extra requirement of sorts that would not comply with the requirement for non-discrimination, for instance, or field of use restrictions. And then finally, we study the performance aspects of the company. So that is how they perform in terms of economic, legal, and social sustainability in the market. So based on this framework, we created a Zoom toolkit, which is essentially a resource that offers not just technical tools. Technical tools are one part of the toolkit, but we also offer a knowledge base, a glossary of terms, list of library of cases of successful companies. We also provide best practices and guidelines especially for supporting organizations, because this webinar is devoted to supporting organizations. So to supporting organizations on how to set up an open source programs office, which is a way of bringing in one place all of the services that might be relevant to a company trying to do business with technologies. We also have a comprehensive training program with training materials, and we have a bit of an experimental tool that is called AI as a Hybrid Asset, where we guide companies in their journey of using AI in their business, or how they can reason about AI in intellectual property terms and in open source licensing terms, and what they need to be aware of when they procure and adopt AI in their business operations. So this is what the toolkit looks like. We'll take you on a quick round through the toolkit in a few moments, just to give you an idea of the type of tools that we have. So particularly for supporting organizations, obviously these tools are relevant for both knowledge creators and developers and supporting organizations. But usually the way these tools are used is different. So for example, you could point customers as a supporting organization. You could point your customers to, for instance, check out the licensing tools that we provide, which would help them by answering a couple of questions, help them make sense of what the best license applicable to their product and service would be. We could also guide them to compliance tools or the glossary. Something that is particularly useful, I think, for supporting organizations is, in fact, the library of cases that we provide. So you can explore these examples to your customers, clients, stakeholders, so that they can get an idea of how successful companies in this using open source technologies work, how they've leveraged open source, and the challenges have been. Then another tool that might be useful to them, but also to you as a supporting organization, is the business tools, and specifically our interactive canvas, which I'm going to show you. Then we also have the training material, which is not so much for you as a supporting organization, but rather to guide your clients or customers to this training material, which might be useful for them to make sense of and understand better how open source licensing works, or what the technological aspects of running an open source project are, or what the business elements they need to consider in order to understand them. And then particularly this was created particularly for supporting organizations, we have the Launch Open Source Programs Office. So the idea is to really our main goal with this tool was to create a guide that would help you as a supporting organization set up a successful open source programs office that you can offer as a service, because typically open source program offices are a position or a unit within a company or a large organization, which is of course not feasible in most cases for underfunded and under-resourced startups. So in this case, we suggest that consultants or IP offices or tech transfer offices could provide this open source program office as a service, companies who might need it. And of course, you will probably not provide the full portfolio of services in any case. And the way we've structured this is that it allows you to scale up and scale down the product, the service offering that that you could launch. And of course, you could monetize this, but still at a rate which would probably be far cheaper compared to using relying completely and solely on professional advice, which is oftentimes costly and for that reason avoided by starting companies. So in terms of licensing tools, you will find the most interesting probably is the license selection decision tree, which through a set of up to 5 questions helps anyone figure out what best what the most recommended license for their product would be. The business tools we focus on again the business model innovation map, which helps you figure out what business models might apply to your case, and also examples of companies that have successfully implemented these business models. The library of the business profiles. This is a special tool which again might be useful also for supporting organizations to guide your clients, customers, to a set of typified standard company journeys that we've divided over several main domains with some relatively plausible examples, I would say, such as, for example, a startup aiming to enhance sustainable agriculture with a strong reliance on open source technology, or a digital graphics tools company with a substantive patent portfolio that uses and contributes to free and open source software. For example, for them, the concerns might be that they might inadvertently give a license to an important patent that they would not necessarily to license out. So these sort of considerations are reflected in these standard journeys, and they basically can be used as a sort of a reasoning tools for by companies. And for example, if you're organizing workshops or supporting organizations for researchers, for innovators who might want to create a spin-off, then these typified journeys might come handy to help you structure discussion and reason about the types of problems that emerge. We are going to take a look at the specific tools for supporting organizations. As I said, the most important one is really the offering of an open source programs office. And then the glossary terms, this is mostly for inexperienced developers who may not necessarily always understand every aspect of the license or every term that is being used. But besides defining standard terms like AGPL, for example, or what Apache 2.0 stands for, we also define some more generic terms such as a copyleft license to try and explain really in simple terms what these notions reflect. We also have a list of frequently asked questions that may be used by an organization to explain to customers or clients. We have tried to create these and to sort of guide them in the direction of serving business use cases, such as how can I generate revenue using an open hardware design? So I have created a lovely new device. I have released its design under an open hardware license, such as SolderPad. Now, how can I make money out of this? And obviously, we advocate a different approach, such as first reasoning, can I actually make money out of my open hardware project? And then deciding, okay, perhaps, releasing this open hardware is maybe not the best approach for me. Maybe I should explore some other options. The key takeaway of Zoom is that you should always reason about your business model first, and only then find a suitable IP strategy that matches this business model. It's not the other way around. It's not that because you want to release something as open source, you would then somehow try and fit it into a working business model, because this is usually when things fail, and they generally don't work that way. The library of cases can be used as sort of inspiration by companies, so you can guide them to some of these examples that we've collected here through interviews with these companies. And these cases actually show how these companies have successfully implemented in partly or wholly open source management strategies in their business. The training modules I already mentioned, this is basically a comprehensive introductory though training program for knowledge creators supportive organizations. There are basic and advanced modules, and of course we also link to other related resources from third parties, particularly trustworthy training providers, such as the Linux Foundation, for instance, which is a well-known service and certification actually provider that you and your clients or customers can rely on. And then finally, this visual walkthrough of the components of AI and how they relate to AI to IP protection. So the idea here was really to give you an idea of AI as a hybrid intellectual property asset that you need to reason about in different terms, or you need to reason about it, for example, in terms of patents, if you have a method that might qualify for protection, or for example, copyright over the training script, or some contract-based usage or access rights that you may have, or licensing conditions that might be attached to the training data that you use, or to potentially, for example, synthetic data sets you might be generating. So this is our contact information of some of the key persons from the project. Now, I would like to take you on a quick journey through the Zoom Toolkit. So to access the Zoom Toolkit, you need to go to our Zoom project website, which you can see here in the address bar. And then you click on the Zoom Toolkit button, which is going to take you to the landing page of the toolkit. As you can see, you have two options to access it. So either you can click on Get Started, which will take you through the standard journey through the Zoom toolkit, or you could select either of these four categories, which we figured these are probably going to be the most commonly used types of tools that people would need. So how to develop your strategy for using open source technologies, whether you want to access the library of cases, training material, or these experimental tool on AI through the lens of IP as a hybrid asset. So let's start with the typical journey. If we click on Get Started, this will take us to the list of tools. Like I said, for supporting organizations, these would be mostly our service portfolio analysis, the customer journey examples, and our open source programs office services metrics and pipeline. So let's go through them one by one. So for instance, if you go to the service portfolio analysis, you can get an idea of the list of services that are typically offered by an open source program office. We've clustered them in 5 categories, as you can see. So we have management, technology, security, environment, skills, and we also have 2 specific categories for open hardware and open data. So, like I said, not every supporting organization would have to implement and would have the capacity to implement all 5 of these categories. But the idea is that you could use these to structure your own service offering, and that's why we also provide a FigJam template that you can use as a collaboration tool, for example, to really tailor your OSPO offer to the best of your organization's needs and, of course, capabilities. So you can see that in each of these categories, we include important aspects such as in the IP, in the management category, we include tools for IP management, such as helping companies to define legal IP strategy, due diligence for open source IP, metrics and reporting, and governance of the programs office itself. In the technology service, we believe that these are really the key elements where you can support customers and clients, such as helping them build a bill of materials for their open source assets, or coordination with communities. So community management of the relationship with communities is particularly important for open source projects, or one-on-one advisory sessions for guidance on licensing, which can be provided either by you as a provider of legal services, or you could collaborate with an external company, provider of legal services. Also, some procedures on software and invention disclosure. So, for example, if you want to obtain a patent over an inventive method that you have developed, that your client has developed, then they also need to have a specific procedure for that, or to interact with related projects dealing with the three O's. So the three O's stand for open source software, open hardware, and open data. You can also take a look at the security services that we provide on the environment and sustainability. I think particularly important would be the skills, the upskilling services. So they concern first and foremost awareness and training, but also providing tools and, for example, fact sheets or infographic that explain the basics of legal compliance with open source technologies, and also definition of contribution teams. And for hardware and software, we have some specific services such as, for example, this. I like to highlight this manufacturing services liaison, where you could, as an OSPO provider, match companies who have developed, for example, a prototype with manufacturing facilities for open hardware products. There are such services. So, as a service provider, you could actually act as a liaison between these two groups. So this is about the service portfolio analysis, the customer journey examples. We have typified two examples of customer journeys. So one is for researchers and the other is for small and medium enterprises, because we believe these are the two most important categories of subjects. And we provide examples of what you need to think about and to drive them all the way through, from observation through implementation of what they have developed. And finally, the services matrix. This is actually mapping these services matrix. We have given an example here with Technology Transfer Office supporting an academic research. So this is essentially an implementation of the services portfolio analysis that we showed earlier. And this is just, you could have these. That's why we provide also the template, so you can have these and you can use them to for your specific organization's needs, because they will differ. Obviously, a technology transfer office will be very different from law firm or other sort of consultancy. Then, because our webinar is nearing its end for today, I would like to perhaps show you just a bit the licensing tools, because they're particularly our test groups find them particularly interesting during early testing of the prototypes. So, for example, if you click here and then you launch the tool, you can see that the first question that you get asked as a customer of this tool is whether you want to impose any restrictions on the use of your software. Because if you want to impose any sort of non-commercial or limiting of cloud computing service usage of your software, then you can guess what the answer would be, and it's that open source is not an option for you. But let's say that we understand this and we don't want actually to restrict the use of our software. And the second question would be whether you seek maximum adoption or not. So by maximum adoption, we mean making it as easy as possible for any third party to use, experiment, modify our software without imposing any additional restrictions or more stringent regimes. So this is basically the choice between a permissive license and a copyleft license. So if you say that you don't want maximum adoption, for example, you don't care so much about the tool being widely used as you care about something else, then the third question is whether your software is a library or not. Because we have, for example, the LGPL license, which is widely used for licensing of software libraries. So let's say my software is not a library. And then the next question is whether your software is going to be used in IoT devices, because this also has implications, which are, by the way, explained in our detailed analysis the licensing framework that you can access through our outcomes tab on the website. And you can also consult the other materials that we produced. So let's say that my software is going to be used in IoT devices. And then we have a fifth question, which is we want a copyleft license with a patent license grant. Of course, if you have a rich patent portfolio in your organization, you might not be willing to hand out licenses so easily. But let's say that's not the case for us, so we don't care so much. We can comfortably choose to go with a copyleft license with a patent license grant. And then you can see the recommended license for this case would be the MPL, the Mozilla Public license, which is well known and understood copyleft license. So that's these are the sort of tools. Obviously, there's so much more to the toolkit, and we invite you to explore it at your leisure. And of course, since this is, as we indicate here in our disclaimer, this is still a pre-release of our toolkit. We are actively seeking feedback, and we look forward to receiving your comments and recommendations for improvement. So thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to our next meetings in the upcoming webinars in 2 weeks. Thank you and have a good day.